My name is Kelby Steele. I'm the founder and CEO of LeadForce 360. Excited to be with you guys here today. Originally from Seattle, now live in Boise. We're doing the whole exodus, kind of like all the Californians. We're moving out of off the West Coast and out to the Midlands. But today's conversation is really about just kind of helping the follow-up process and building sales funnels and marketing and recruiting. Of course, that's kind of why we're all here. Now, I'm an entrepreneur and I'm a salesperson and I mean the whole gamut. How many of these entrepreneurs, recruiters, salespeople, marketers do we have here? Yeah, a lot of hands, right? Yeah, everybody in this room, right? So you guys can understand and I can sympathize with you on all the frustrations around being an entrepreneur, the glories, the late nights, the maybe being hospitalized because you're just working constantly, the stress, I mean, everything that goes into it, and trying to build a sales team on top of this, let alone trying to get a sales team to be motivated enough and consistently forecast good business so then you guys can grow your teams, grow your business, and create the lifestyles that you want to have. So with me and my background, I'm, again, software sales and marketing. I originally worked for companies like DocuSign and ChannelVisor. You guys have heard of those ones. If you ever bought a house, probably you know about DocuSign. So I worked within the financial services and insurance industry to kind of help with selling, basically trying to digitize their whole paper process. And one of the challenges that I had as a salesperson was probably like every single person here, if not, and I don't know what to tell you, but every single true entrepreneur and salesperson or marketer or recruiter has experienced this, where they've struggled to create a consistent pipeline and to do the follow-up. Most of the people, like we saw in the stat, 50% of people just have just don't do it. I would say it's even more than that. I'd find that probably less than 4% of people actually have a process. When I'm going through and I'm interviewing people or even just talking to a new client, one of my first questions is to ask them, hey, what's your process? And you'd be shocked that most people, they just kind of look at you like a deer in the headlights. They really don't have a process. Or they tell you like, oh, well, we run some email campaigns and we make some phone calls. I'm like, all right, well, when a lead comes in, what do? And usually there's this 5-second pause like, oh shit, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say. So we're gonna be talking about a little bit of this. And so for myself as a salesperson, I had this conversation when I was a junior sales rep, worked for one of these software companies, and I got the opportunity to meet this guy, Alex. And Alex was this like untouchable guy, never needed to come into the office. The top 5 sales guys and gals at this company, he did everything that they did, combined revenue-wise, and more. And he did it consistently for the last 10 years. And so I was like, man, I gotta get a conversation with this guy. So I sent him an email one day, and I'm not expecting to hear back. He gives me a call back and says, hey, I got your email. I was like, hey, thanks. I said, hey, Alex, I'm a junior sales rep in the software industry. What I wanna know from you is what makes you so different than every one of the other 600 salespeople here at DocuSign. And he had said to me at the time, something that I'll never forget, and it gave birth to LeadForce 360 and everything that we do, that we begin to build off of. And that is that, he says, Kelby, you gotta find a way to automate yourself, to replicate yourself by 5 times. I said, well, what does that mean? And he began to tell me what that looked like, and it's exactly what we're gonna go into. So one of the things that he shared with me was, you need to be multi-channel. Everything that you do today is email, and then you make cold calls. It's like, no wonder you struggle so much. And like our whole sales org struggles so much because they're just sending either one-off emails or making cold calls. They're not being smart about it. They're working too hard rather than being smart. If you can get the slide up there, Nolan. Here's an example of some of the other channels. And this is something that probably you and everybody you know, they don't leverage too many of these, especially the social media ones. And I always usually get a few laughs when we have TikTok up there. But one of the things here is to create a funnel and to automate, but yet personalize it. Where salespeople make the common mistake when they're first getting started doing this, is they'll just grab like 1,000 names, and then they're just gonna try to blast them with the same message. And that's a lazy way of doing it. If you got a sales org that's doing this today, stop it. Because what you're doing is you're actually destroying your brand. And then any of those customers in the future, they're gonna say no to you today, they're never gonna work with you again, because they're gonna associate your name with, oh, they're just this company that spams the hell out of people, right? Rather, start with one of these channels. This is one of the things that people always ask me, like, Kelby, where do you start? I was like, you start right where you're at. You start with one of these channels. If you're doing email marketing, start with email marketing. But take the time to build a personalized campaign that's structured around your ideal customer. And we spend time talking about what the ideal customer profile would be, the ICP, right? So if you're leveraging databases or whatnot, that's perfect. You also want to be thinking about social media. LinkedIn, if you're doing any recruiting, LinkedIn is king. LinkedIn is absolutely king. If you're doing any kind of B2B, LinkedIn is probably the way you want to go. Probably a lot of the people at this conference, you're consultants and you're trying to connect with big decision makers, CFOs, executives, whatever. LinkedIn's where you want to be. So you want to find a way to automate this. A lot of LinkedIn vendors make the mistake of telling you that you can just blast off 200 connection messages every single day, and that's wonderful. Well, if you do that over a 2-week period, you're going to get shut down. They don't tell you that. And especially now over the last 3 months, that's all that LinkedIn's been doing to people. So if you are doing that, definitely just come talk to us. We got a little booth here. And that's kind of a red flag if you're talking to a marketing company like that and they say that over LinkedIn you can do over 100 messages a day. Not a good practice. If you are doing that today, which I imagine some of you are, again, stop doing it. Otherwise your LinkedIn's gonna get shut down and you may not even get it back up. And then you lose all that opportunity. LinkedIn also allows, when you use it properly and you collect the data, this is another thing that a lot of vendors don't do for you, is that there's loopholes here. So LinkedIn also has 98% of people on LinkedIn, they have a personal email. They use the same email for logging on to Facebook and other social media profiles. It means that they frequently check it, right? So we found that it's between a 98 and 100% deliverability of those emails. So first you run a LinkedIn campaign, 3 to 4 touches, 3-day intervals, and then if there's no response after 5 to 8 days, it automatically then drops into an email and text campaign. Now, why text messages? And isn't that manual? Don't you have to send those one off? No, you don't. So you can actually build out this whole software ecosystem that where people are located, right? So a perfect example is with my wife and I. We're totally different when it comes to the social media channels that we pay attention to. I was just talking to Melissa and I said that, or Nolan here, and I was saying, hey, the best form of communication for me is over text message, right? 98% of people that receive a text message open up that text message within the first 10 minutes. So text is huge, and again, you want to personalize it as well as automate it, but personalize it so it doesn't look like it's an automation or that otherwise it's a spam thing. So you want to take that time. But with my wife, she spends all of her time going on Instagram, Snapchat, and what's some of the other ones? She's kind of our PR person for our family. She posts about our 2 kids and everything, and I never go onto Facebook or anything like that. But LinkedIn is the channel. LinkedIn, text, calling is often the best for me. Even my emails, I don't even check my own emails. I have somebody that does that. So that if I'm your ideal customer, you know then that, okay, for Kelby, I want to hit him up over LinkedIn. I want to give him calling. I want to do text, as well as I want to shoot him an email. So you want to have those things work in sequence together, and this is often where salespeople and marketing people fail, or this is why they have a struggle in growing their business, is because they're not multi-channel. They focus on one channel, or there's a dead end. Instead, rather have it work all together. Not that you're spamming everybody at once, but one at a time, and they complement one another. And if you do that, then you're able to build value over time. Every one of your outreaches should be 3 things, broken up into 3 different type of messages. 1, you're building credibility. Why should I care to listen to you? It's basically every single executive who doesn't have any time, they're gonna ask you that. Why should I give a crap about what you have to say? The second thing is education. You wanna educate your customers, right? Why is it that they should listen to you, essentially, right? What are the common misconceptions about working with your business? If you're a lender, for example, like what makes you different than other lenders? Find ways to distinguish yourself. We work with a lot of insurance agencies, and there's a million insurance agencies, right? So with insurance agents, what is it that makes you different than the other guy? And we were talking to this guy, Orlando, the other day, and he was telling me about his experience. He's a brand new insurance agent. He was actually struggling in sales, and he's like, I don't know how to kind of distinguish myself. And I said, okay, well, tell me about your experience. And he started telling me about, he's like, well, I got 20 years in the restaurant industry. I got 7 years in the auto industry. Like, I ran a Jiffy Lube for, a number of years. And but that doesn't help me in insurance. And I said, yes, it does. It absolutely does. So your focus is that you know better than the other 500 agency owners in the Glenwood, California area. You know everything about running an auto business, or a Jiffy Lube, or an auto repair shop, or even running a restaurant. You know more about that than these other guys. So find the things that are your niche and then just fully dive into that. I recommend not having more than 3, though, that you go after. But test those out with every single campaign that you do, whether it's for auto, restaurants, and homes, like for Orlando. Do like some A, B, and C testing. Maybe use some more alphabets. But then try to constantly be leveraging at least 2 campaigns for each one of those different industries at all times. Because a lot of times what we found, too, is that campaigns will begin to lose their value. Right? They'll work well for 6 weeks, and you've probably seen this, especially if you do any kind of Facebook marketing. It works for a little while, and then it kind of dies away at different seasons, right? Whether it's like springtime or summer or winter, you can fluctuate your campaigns that way. But one of the biggest misconceptions is that, I'm just gonna use the same campaign for everything. And if you do that, that's a quick way to lose customers long term. Now, why do I have video up here? The biggest thing is that, and I know there's lots of stats I've heard, what I've found in our experience is that video, when you apply it into text messages and emails and LinkedIn's and Facebook campaigns into more of a direct messenger type way, you get a 280% higher conversion, as long as you keep the video less than 60 seconds. And that also helps you to show value. And if you can narrow it down, so if, say, you're a loan officer, for instance, then you, or an insurance agents, and you're going after commercial business, and say like Orlando, who focuses on restaurants and the auto industry and auto repair, then he needs to make specific videos tailored only to auto and restaurants, and those run separately, but maybe similar messaging, but the value points are just slightly different. This is a way that he builds value, and you as the consumer, or being that person on the other side, the prospect, you get value out of it, right? Because now he's building credibility and showing that, look, I have experience doing this. I've been in your shoes. I know the frustrations, the late nights, having to deal with servers and bartenders and all of that. And then even, customers in the restaurant, as well as just what it takes, when the doors are closed and behind the scenes. Like, I understand you. That's how you're building credibility. But then you're also educating them on how it could be better. And then thirdly, you want to convert. You always need to convert. Typically, this is the third message that will go out. Let me kind of move along here. LinkedIn, I just want to show you real quick, is a great tool. If you guys don't have Sales Navigator, get Sales Navigator. It's kind of like an upgraded on your package for LinkedIn. There's an $89.99 package for this. This is really good at being able to help you narrow down what your ICP is, your ideal customer profile, right? And then build that out. Sales Navigator gives you a ton of capabilities. I always say there's typically 2 reasons why you want to get Sales Navigator. 1, geographics. Geographically, you want to be able to narrow down where you are. Sales Navigator gives you the capabilities to search even the smaller suburbs and even the counties. If you are the second reason would be demographics. So you're able to specifically look at, like, how long has somebody been in this role, how many years of experience, is there special keywords that they have in their title that maybe is important for you when you're trying to reach out to them as a salesperson and qualify them or pre-qualify them. This is something great for you, too. Kind of moving along here. Here's some examples of like what some of these messages look like. Now, this is an automated system that runs over LinkedIn, and some of the replies that we would get back. Very personalized. You can see very short and sweet. Some of these replies, there's just a few combinations here. But always we're trying to look for a phone number and email. Typically with LinkedIn too, 30% of people have their cell phone numbers on there, so you can run, as you're kind of building the software ecosystem that first maybe begins with LinkedIn, and then after 5 days, if there's no reply and 3 messages have gone out 3-day intervals, then you're funneling that into an email and text campaign where it's then doing the follow-up for you. With my sales team, one of the things that we do is we built out an entire cadence that says, hey, when you say you make your first call, you're running this in the background, but then when you make your first call, if you don't get anybody that answers, then you leave a voice message, short and sweet, and then you shoot a text message right afterwards, and then you do an email, and then that afternoon you do the same thing, and then the next day you do the same thing. but you always include the voice message, email, and text. You will get higher conversions. 28% of, I'd say, our appointments come from the text messages. So imagine if you're not doing that, you're losing out on nearly 30% of your business and getting in front of executives. Kind of move along here. Here's an example of kind of what one of these spreadsheets look. Now, if you're doing this, one of the ways that we do it for folks is, I was kind of surprised by this. Not a lot of people actually have a CRM, or they really know how to utilize a CRM, and that's okay. But the other way is that it's Excel spreadsheets. Typically, everybody has a concept of Excel, right? So we can funnel it into a Google Sheet, which again is free. It's cheaper than a CRM. Other great CRMs that we typically will recommend, my go-to is Hubspot. Hubspot, why? Because it integrates with everything. So all these, as you're building out the software ecosystem for your business, you can set up triggers that then qualify certain customers that when they hit a certain point of engagement, like they're watching your videos that you sent in the email, they're opening up the emails, they looked at a text message, all these different things. It's an engagement score. You then can come back here and you can call them right away. I had this slide. So here's like an example of like, this is an email software that we actually used to use, and you can kind of see on the right-hand side, there's the engagement score. We've got some pink lightning bolts. Of course, if it's 3 lightning bolts, this was showing that somebody replied. So that's your low-hanging fruit. You're already done. You don't need to make calls on them. Imagine that you're sending an email campaign to 1,000 people, and that, say, 600 of them, say 500 of them don't even open up the email, right? So you're not going to prioritize. You say you can only make 50 calls that day, right? How do you prioritize who you call? Most people, they would just start calling through that list, right? And most of your salespeople, if you guys know this, if you don't, ask them, that's probably what they're doing. They're just cold calling through the list, and maybe they only hit 1 touch point, maybe 2, and then they kind of give up. But they're not tracking it, and they're not measuring it. So if you can't measure it, you're not going to be successful. So say you got 500 of those, say you run a list of 1,000, you got 500 that don't open up the email, and the other, the other 500 open up the email, but then you have 200 of them that reply, which is pretty good. So you get 200 of them that reply, they say yes or no, maybe so, reach out to me later, hey, here's my phone number, all that kind of stuff. But then who do you call after that? That's great, you got the low-hanging fruit, and that's definitely call those ones. But who do you call? If you got that extra time or you have a sales development team, the ones in the middle that don't have a reply that have open emails, and look how many times they've been opened. And even in here, it didn't show on this sheet, but there'll be like a yellow icon too that shows like, hey, they watched this video and whatnot. Those are the ones that you want to teach your sales teams to prioritize calling, because that's a hot lead. So having that engagement is huge, and that's how you prioritize doing that. Here's some actual numbers. I'm a total numbers guy. I always, if you guys have ever, talked to me previously, you know that I believe numbers don't lie. So this is an example of a funnel, and it first started with LinkedIn, and then it went to email, and then it went to text, and then it went to phone calling. And I love phone calling still, and I'm a total software automation guy. I still think phone calling is great, but smart phone calling is better, right? So working smart rather than harder. One of the ways, the numbers here represent appointments, because that's the whole kind of premise here, is how do we get you in front of people? And this is exactly how you do it. So LinkedIn is generally going to give you, these numbers, they don't have the percentages, but you can kind of see here, just by looking at them, that around 20 to 30% of your messages, your appointments are going to come directly from LinkedIn. Doing this process that if people are just doing that one touch, they'll stop at that one line. Or if they're just using one of these channels that we'll call them, they're going to only get what's in that channel. But you can see that through doing this, you can actually get so many more appointments. You end up with 15, 21, 11, 15, 18 appointments throughout that 1 week. So this is an example of 3 different offices and kind of what they're able to do. So it's a great way to kind of automate your outreach and being able to find new customers. Calendly, I got to talk about Calendly. Calendly, if you guys, there's a ton of different calendar systems out there. If you guys aren't using Calendly, highly recommend it. The Pro plan does 2 things for you. One, it helps out the integration. You can tie that into your CRM whenever there's a scheduled appointment. The second thing I find best about the Pro plan, and there is a free plan, it's called the Basic plan. You can do this is great. It's going to help save you time and being able to schedule those appointments. You can send it out. You can put it into your email campaigns, and people will automatically start scheduling time on your calendar. But the best part about doing the Pro plan is $15 a month. I'm not an affiliate marketer for these guys, so just so you guys know. But I just love the software. It's great. Is that what I found for my business, though, I was doing like 30 appointments a week for myself, and I found that it was like always like 5 or 6 that would like no-show. And when I implemented Calendly, it saved me probably an hour a day, scheduling back and forth, waiting, following up, having to put in my Hubspot, did they reply back to me? Oh shoot, okay. So doing that, with this, they're able to schedule the time, and I didn't have to manually send them a reminder, hey, remember we got a call coming up today at 10 o'clock. This thing already does it, and you can personalize it too, and not very many people know how to do that. But Calendly is fantastic, and it's highly worth the money. So if you take nothing away from this conference, get Calendly. Again, I'm not an affiliate. LeadForce 360, this is my contact information, text friendly, definitely, it's just my cell. But if you guys have questions around how do you build out automation and help your sales team to be more successful and worth their time, the other thing too, I just wanted to mention that as a sales rep, when I did this for myself, we had a sales development team at DocuSign, 100, so some kids that are like fresh out of college, and I found, as you can imagine, they're just not as consistent. They're not as reliable. They're still learning to cut their teeth, and that's okay. You want to take that time to sit with them and coach them, but building out these automated systems, even for yourself, if you're an entrepreneur, it's just you right now, but you're looking to scale your business, this is fantastic. It's way cheaper to do it, and it's a way that you can also have a very consistent message, where if you're having a lot of college kids, it makes it very difficult to do that. It requires a lot more time and coaching, and which I'm sure another element of frustration, which I'm sure many of you have already experienced. But that's my time. Hey, you guys, thank you for having me. I appreciate you giving me a moment. Questions? Yeah. If anybody has any questions, if you feel bold enough, you can ask them now. Or if you want to do some one-on-one time, we got a booth out there. Dan Gray and I, he's the director of operations sitting back there in the blue suit. So come up and talk to us if you guys have any questions or you want to learn about how you do this. Cool. Thank you for your time.